So this is the person you've been with through your ups and downs, but now you're watching them slip away. Some days I don't even know how to describe it.
You've dealt with mom. She's conquered cancer.
Yeah.
She has a stroke. You're going through your own. You beat cancer, thank God. That's
Thank
why
God.
you're here
Thank
today.
God. Yeah. With a 6 months exit date.
What?
So you're choking on sawdust, and then somebody brings you boiling radiator water from a car
Hey.
and asks you to cool the choking with this water. So I was looking for answers at the bottom of every barrel. Life can show you things. What did you say your show is called?
Welcome. This is Curveballs by Gigi. My name is Gladys Gashanja. It's an honor to have you on board. Thank you for your support on this platform. Great conversations happening here, and I can see you resonating with them on the socials. Remember, you can reach out to us with any of your stories, or if you know somebody in your life who needs to tell their story, please talk to us. Curveballsbygg@gmail.com. Let's see how we can ensure they are on set with us. And speaking of which, the lady who is on set today with me, let me tell you, her story reads like a Survivor series. Hey, you'll get to know what I'm talking about in a moment. But hey, on a day-to-day, she comes with a heavy portfolio. She's a headhunter. She's a career igniter. She is an interview prep specialist. She's an outplacement trainer, facilitator, MC, and storyteller. Let me tell you, the list is long. But for purposes of this set, we'll introduce her as the founder, lead associate, and chief career igniter at, is it Colonel?
Correct.
Colonel Associates.
Yes.
Wamaitha. Wamaitha Karanja, you're a joy to have on set. Karibu.
Thank you so much. And I get to call you Gigi.
Yes,
So
you can.
thank
You know,
you.
guys are like, Gladys Gashanja is who we know. Gigi
Yes.
Nekusema, it's the initials, imagine.
Yeah,
as
and I
simple
love
as
it.
that.
I love it.
And that's what we're going with in this
Yep.
new season. Awesome. Karibu sana.
I am so excited to be here.
Awesome.
Like absolutely excited.
I remember
Yeah.
we met in 2021
At the height of COVID.
at the height of
Yes,
COVID.
COVID season 2.
Exactly. And you came on set because of what you do on a day-to-day, which is,
Right.
you know, recruitment and all that.
Yeah.
How did you end up in the recruitment space, by the way?
I felt there was a gap between what I was doing, what I studied, what I chose to do, and what my father had paid for.
Hey, okay, explain.
So dad wanted a degree in computer science. Did that, graduated. I told him, dude, this one you can
Iliako.
also add to your CV, sir.
All right.
I'm done. Now can we do something I enjoy?
Yeah.
But then there was always something burning, because something I'd enjoyed doing when I was doing computer science was human-computer interaction. And I kept feeling there was a gap. Where does the person come in? So he's like, why don't you go and try do personnel management?
This is HR now.
This is now what you call people and culture,
Aha.
which came from HR.
Yes.
But back in the day, it was personnel management. Basically, it was firing, hiring, and paying for salary.
Yes.
So went and did a higher diploma, a postgrad diploma, and then I realized, wait, there's something exciting here that requires my IT skill to then now automate HR systems. But then there's a thing there that's really exciting, that's connecting people to the correct jobs. So recruitment at the time hadn't quite caught on, and it was being done, you know, just employee selection, etc. So that's how I ended up there.
And interesting that you say a lot hadn't really morphed back then, but now the dynamics of doing work are totally different today.
You can't even compare.
What have you found interesting about how people approach perhaps seeking employment today, or even self-improvement, because it has a lot to do with where you are placed?
Okay, you see, this is coming into the workplace in 2002,
Oh, wow.
thereabout, and to date,
Yes.
let's put it this way, 4 presidents later,
Yes.
you're still in the workplace. It has evolved tremendously.
Yes.
So if you're not keeping up, if you're not reading, forget what the employer either pays you to read or trains you in, your own personal initiative, you will get left behind. You will get left behind. Yeah.
And from an employer's point of view, because I mean, also that has shifted. The people who wanted to come 8 to 5 in an office,
Or they don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
The new resource is the people. The new product is people. So you need to be able to come up with policy systems, whatever standard operating systems you have in your office must factor in that the person now is the new product. So how the person operates, are you thinking through their work-life rhythm? Because we no longer can achieve a balance. COVID showed us that. There is no longer balance. So is there a rhythm? Are you allowing this person to be a human? Or are you just expecting a warm body in your organization?
I love that.
Yeah.
Just this morning, I came across a video that said 75% of Gen Zs do not intend to grow into managerial positions, and a big chunk of the millennials too.
Yeah.
And the reason about the millennials was they feel it's a thankless job. They feel what they put in is what they get out, and there is no room for them to do anything else but that. Is this the case?
Because remember, this is the first time we have 4 generations in the same workplace. So we have the ones before me. So I'm a Gen X. So you have, what were they called? Baby boomers before me. Then there's the Gen X, then there's the millennials, and then now you have the Gen Zs. And a few alphas are doing things like my daughter is an alpha. No, she's a Gen Z and helps me with things in the office, right? But I do have a nephew who's an alpha and he's sharp. So you'd want to leverage on that. So you might even have, well, we can employ him, he's underage, but his skills are usable and transferable. So this is the first time you have people who wanted white collar jobs, permanent, pensionable. I just want to do my thing, keep my head low and get my pension. Then there are us who are confused because you're raised by Mau traumatized parents.
Yes.
And then they've come in, and then there was the insertion of theology, Christianity. So then that shifted how we approached discipline and authority.
Yes.
And then comes a generation that's wondering, sorry, I can't speak my mind. With people who are thinking speaking your mind is rude.
Yes.
Right? And then comes now another generation that's not even asking you when I can speak your mind. They vote with their feet and they move. So now those dynamics are making it very, very difficult in the workplace if you don't stop and understand the product, which is the people.
Let's talk about retention, because I think that's where the money is for both parties.
Yes.
How do we do this in this day and age?
So how are you motivating your people? What's in it for them? For you, we know it's a bottom line as the business owner. But what's in it for them? They're showing up day in, day out, 9 to 5, 4 to whatever. They're embracing different shifts, etc. So if your company is also not evolving, you will get left behind. You will get left behind. So then you find all you're doing is churning out people. All you're doing, your retention level is low because you're not addressing the thing that keeps them motivated there. And it's not occasional team building and pizza. Address the need, not the one that makes the company look good. Address the need that is unspoken. Yeah.
All right. I love the fact that we've addressed both the employer and the employee in the new dynamic of doing work. Now, if perhaps you can look back into you ending up in this space and what you intended to do with it, would you choose it again?
I would have to say a resounding yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
I get to influence decisions. I get to influence choices that both an employer and an employee is making. For me, I look at it as being able to bring in a good marriage between a good candidate and a good to work for company, bringing them together and ensuring that thrives. That for me it's corporate Cupid.
Fantastic. Love it, corporate Cupid. Oh, that is Worms for you. And by the way, she goes by the name Worms for most of the people that know her. So you'll hear me referring to her as such. So just hearing you speak, you clearly have a heart for people. Right. And not only for people, but to ensure that you leave them better than you found them.
Oh, yes.
What's so different about how you lend yourself?
People-centric. So off-the-shelf solutions don't work for me. I'm working with an individual. So I'm changing lives one CV at a time, one JD at a time, one hire at a time. And also I'm changing lives one exit at a time, because you did mention that I do offer outplacement services. So literally I'm an undertaker who cares about you. Yeah. how I bring you into the organization, then how we do the leadership development with that organization to make sure that we are upskilling you and making you ready for succession planning. And then when roles are redundant, because it's never people who are redundant, it's the roles that they were playing. When that role becomes redundant, then we need to exit you. Are we exiting you in a humane manner? Are we equipping you to look after the money that you've gotten perhaps at the end of that tenure? Are we equipping your mind to adjust to the change that has come? And then are we sending you out there with perhaps upskilled ability to interview, to present yourself, to even just bring these three aspects together and say, you know what, that happened in my career. It's a speed bump. I'm not disregarding the road. Yeah.
And when you think back about WAMS growing up, is this something that you've always been about, looking out for people, seeing more than what's being said or what's right in front of you?
You'll have to read my book.
Oh, tell me more. So who was WAMS growing up and how has she fed to WAMS today?
Oh, it's really interesting you're asking this. You don't get asked that question often. I like it. WAMS growing up, so two parents, two elder brothers, myself. I always longed for siblings, like after me. But then this last born status was, I think, really nice. So I enjoyed it and I milked it for everything I had. Like for 44 years, I was, their baby forever and a day. But there are segments and things, my folks used to share with me and say how they would find me recording my voice on a cassette player. Right? Because I was telling my mom, I'm going to speak at the UN, I'm going to speak at UNEP, I'm going to come up with solutions for air pollution.
Look at that.
So I'm always chasing one thing after the other, right? And then I was very worried about trees for some reason, right? So I used to think through the life cycle of a tree until it becomes a paper. And my mom couldn't understand. Then she started pushing me towards reading. So I'd read a Kenyan author called Meja Mwangi. And Meja Mwangi would write, and he was trying to explain a girl's first period, and he called it a catastrophe. I'd never heard of such a big word. Like after marmalade, it was catastrophe. I'm like, what does this mean? So I was so intrigued and I would devour his books. Only later my mom to become friends with either an in-law of his. And I'm like, wow, there was always something burning inside. Like if it was cars, I was excited about cars. Like school, I really wasn't very excited about it. Like I enjoyed going because of my friends, I really liked school after 4 p.m. Like I loved school after 4. But there was that thing, a literature class, a history class, a geography class. Those ones excited me to no end. And I would really connect with that. So I don't know, I was a curious child, very, very curious child, and unsupervised as well for some time, because then if my folks were traveling, I got up to a lot of no good. Yeah, and I enjoyed getting up to a lot of no good, because then how I'm able to negotiate myself out of it, I was like, I can try a bit better tomorrow. Yes.
Smart. I mean, that's why you're a recruiter today, because really...
If I can't find it, it doesn't exist.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it. So let's pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
You also wear the hat of a divorce navigation specialist.
There we go.
What informed this?
Okay. So 2 things. Any certification you hear me going after, chances are I've either lived it or I saw a gap. And I went looking for the answers.
Okay.
So they always say when the student is ready, the master appears, right? So for me, the things that were presenting to me a couple of, I forget how many years ago now, was an ended marriage. And I didn't know how to navigate that. I didn't know now, I didn't know then what I know now that I would have done differently, right? And that's when I thought, no, I need to go out and look for solutions. Go to class, go back to school, find out what this is about. Because I've seen it show up at interview tables.
How?
Where you interview a candidate and you can see a cloud over their head, a dark cloud, in terms of, okay, I'm not saying like I'm seeing vision.
Literal.
Yes,
Yeah.
But somebody is not able to express themselves. I mean, they have the qualifications, they have the papers, but they just can't express themselves. And you're thinking, there's a gap here. So prior to going into divorce navigation is I went into now trauma debriefing and psychological counseling, just to understand how does this trauma show up in people.
Okay.
Then went into loss and grief, and then now tied it in with divorce navigation, so that when I'm speaking to you as a recruiter, I'm looking at you as a holistic person. There's trauma unaddressed, so there's a way it's showing up, and especially for women once you hit 33.
What is it about that age?
33 is new haircut, new hair color, new job, new husband, new car. You're changing everything about your life. You've reached a place where you need agency, and then you want to give life to your voice, or you're speaking truth to power.
I'm thinking at that age, oh wait, I became a mom. All right.
Most women make very fundamental decisions at 33, whether positive or negative. And for me, I always look at negative as ending up being failing forward, because you learned something. No experience is ever lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's how I've been able to infuse. So then the background is IT, then take the HR, take the people and culture part, take the leadership development part, but then why aren't people excelling? What's the gap? So now address the trauma. Do they have losses that they have not dealt with? Work through that. And then more so now, because we have such a high rate of divorce, have we sat and made peace? Or like a friend of mine says, have you settled a matter?
I love what you're saying, because having been employed as long as I was, there was always this thing that told me there needs to be more than just paying a salary to an employee. This is a human being who shows up, yes, to do the work. They are a professional at what they do, but they're a human being. They bring in a lot more. So if you don't pay attention to that, then they won't give you what they need to at optimum. So I love the 360 look to it, because it really churns out holistic human beings, you know. So let's go back to the divorce bit.
Sure.
If you've seen me do something, it's either I've gone through it or I have seen a gap. For divorce, this is a reality in your life.
Yes.
Divorce after how long?
We're married for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we're married for 4 years. Exactly 4 years.
Were you a mother then?
Yes, I became a mother in the second year of my marriage.
All right.
Yes.
Tell me, worms navigating that.
That was madness, huh? That was proper madness. Like, we separated in 2010 and then got divorced 4 years later, because unfortunately in between that I got very ill. So I couldn't even, I couldn't proceed with the divorce case. But that worms never dealt. I never dealt with it until 2018. Yeah. A day before I went on the engage stage. Yes. I did not deal with it at all.
Why?
Like, I was like, so divorce is meant to stop me? No, I keep going. You see, there's the other side of a can-do attitude. There's the other side of audaciousness. Let me put it that way. That can also stand in your way if you're not harnessing it. So I never stopped to deal. I never stopped to process. I never stopped to look and see, where is my role in this? Never. I never once stopped to remove my ego from the conversation.
And how did it impact you?
Oh, wow. It impacted my liver. Yeah, let's just leave it there.
All right.
No, yeah, so I was looking for answers at the bottom of every barrel.
I hear
and
you.
They were nowhere to be found. Yes. So there was a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda. There was a lot of, I could have done this differently. But the minute I woke up and said, okay, Worms, do you forgive Worms? I'd never reached that place. I'd never, ever thought there's a place where you ask yourself such questions. Like, okay, let's take stock of what has happened. The marriage is over. You're raising a child alone. You're fighting cancer. This is XYZ is happening. In between that time, my mom had suffered a stroke. So there were, anything that could go wrong was going wrong. I'd lost my job. Like, there were so many things happening at the same time. Dealing with my divorce was the least of my priorities.
In the grand scheme of things.
Yet
Yeah.
it was affecting me the most because it was eating at my mental health. How I was showing up even for my friends or not showing up. How I was not showing up for my daughter. Yeah? So it's something I want people to wake up to. The impact of emotional stress is very high. And then it will show up now physically when you
Yes.
start presenting with symptoms. Yeah.
Tell me this. What was the awakening for you?
Was that question the day before engage. So my fellow speaker, Georgie Kua, says, but once your story is going to live forever because it's going to be on the internet, have you reconciled and forgiven Wams? Because I thought I was only coming to speak about my medical misadventures. And he's like, but have you stopped for a minute? And that for me was a light bulb. I cried because I had never. Who tells you to stop and think and forgive yourself? Nobody.
I think this is where we need to tell Agatha and team she needs to do engage number 2 because there is a clearer, worms today because of that fast engage. I love that for you. Tell me, do you feel the lady on the other side of divorce is different?
I think I'm a better parent because of my divorce.
Silver lining.
Yeah. I think I am because then I can show up now having addressed the cracks. Yeah. I can show up now with a reduced ego. Yeah. And I don't even shy from saying that.
Yeah. Humility. Like has a way of handling you, right?
It's learned.
Oh wow.
My friend, life can show you things. What did you say your show is called? Thank you.
Curveballs. Here we are. We are. Adulting is not easy. It's not for the weary.
No.
If you think about now the fact that there are all these things, it was like a snowball effect. This and this and this. And in there you talked about cancer. At what point are we getting a diagnosis of cancer as you're going through the chaos of divorce?
Actually, interestingly, I like what is happening in my life right now. I'm living in my redeemed time, right? So I actually can't remember some things.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a student of history. I will tell you where you were seated, when it was, what you were wearing, the road we were crossing. But there are certain elements of my life that honestly, it's only God who can bring Isaiah to pass in my life. Like I am not remembering the former things. So I do know I did get a diagnosis during the separation, right? And that was hard to take. It was very hard to take because my own mother had suffered and beaten cancer in 1989.
Okay.
Double cancer, breast and ovarian, right? Hence
the tattoo.
Yes. But for me, then it sounded like a death sentence, right? 1989. I was only in class 4. Yeah.
Okay. During mom.
Yes,
okay.
During mom.
All right.
Then now fast forward and you're telling me what I have, and then it's a desmoid tumor. It is so rare. It's this rare that in a million people, 2 to 4 get it. Yes, survival is 1 to 2.
Where does it affect?
So connective tissues. So mine sat in the left stomach muscle.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lost 70% of my stomach muscle. Right. Yeah. So some days I don't even know how to describe it. But I tell people it's like drinking. Okay, so you're choking on sawdust. And then somebody brings you boiling radiator water from a car.
Hey.
And asks you to cool the choking with this water. So nothing is working for you. Yeah. And at that time, I have a 3-year-old. And the marriage is over. And then my mom suffers a stroke. And then they tell her she's going to need dialysis and she's going to need a kidney. Like it was spiraling after spiraling.
Tell me this.
Yeah.
As all these things are unfolding, are you still a recruiter? Are you still showing up professionally?
Oh, yes.
What's holding you together?
having watched my mother fight, that held me together. Having watched my dad fight for her and with her, I knew there's no way they could have done it with what they knew then. And I, who knows Christ, will not do it. There's no way. There's no way. And then I have two brothers that were supportive. They were right there. You know, their families, their wives, their kids. They rallied around me. I have friends. I have prayer group members. They stood with me, for me, colleagues. You're asking whether I was working for two amazing gentlemen who kept me on full pay for 8 months while I was on my back, unable to walk. So I strongly believe there's a grace and a favor that's upon my life that's not normal. I don't take it for granted, but it has afforded me some amazing moments of reprieve. Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
And still on the poor health, so to speak. You've dealt with mom. She's conquered cancer. She has a stroke. You're going through your own. You beat cancer. Thank God. That's why you're here today.
Yeah. With a 6 months exit date.
What? Yeah. That was close. It was a close shave. And then you say that your dad also beat cancer.
Yeah, twice.
At what point of this story? You know, when I was saying your story is like a Survivor series, where now?
So this is after I have gone through my surgery, everything. At this point, mom's failing kidneys required a kidney transplant. My brother gave her kidney, and we are thriving, right? Then in between, every time we would go out for treatment in India, my dad was always getting checkups. So because of mom, we had fully embraced early detection saves lives. We were always showing up in hospitals for reviews, etc. We were conscious. I mean, cancer, medication, diabetes, hypertension has punctuated conversations at our dining table, right? And that's over now. However, dad had that wisdom to keep going for tests and keep going to check. So eventually he did find out he had cancer. And because he's a mountain climber, or was a mountain climber, he was in really good health. And so they caught it at stage 1.
And what cancer was this?
And prostate cancer.
Okay.
And he was able to go through what they call cyberknife treatment. I think it's now recently come to Kenya. But this is 2018, right? And he was able to successfully, and he went to India alone. He refused, but it was my daughter's 10th birthday. He's like, we are not haraganiaring, what's the English word for that? We are not changing that, right?
Yes.
We are not disrupting those plans. Like life is going to go on. He didn't even go with my brothers, nothing. He went, had treatment. And then the Lord sent him amazing friends we had met in 2017 when I'd gone back for a second surgery. I think my 4th that time. And yeah, those are the ladies who looked after him. It happened to fall on his birthday in November. They did a whole breakfast birthday for him. And they just looked after him. And he came back home having beat cancer. Only for a different cancer to come up in late 2022. He got sick in 2021. And he lost kidney function. So he was, they call it chronic kidney disease. Yes. And so at his stage, he was in the late 70s. So at his age, a kidney transplant wasn't viable. So it was the management of, then as you're dealing with that, he gets non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Another cancer.
Yes. And he beat it. He beat it in the August of 2023, a few months, like 9 months before he died. He beat it.
You know, this is the part you say, may the God of Wamaitha locate me, because how?
Oh yeah. He is Rapha. He is Rapha.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's going on with Wamaitha when this diagnosis is now on the table?
Oh my goodness. Just the realization that my superstar could actually die. Yeah. Like, this is the guy. He's been the rock. He's the guy I've known. He's been a constant. And then you're telling us what?
And your dad is gone.
Yeah. And I am the apple of his eye, literally. And, you know, I am his father of faith. I led him to Christ. Yeah. But we had We had that type of relationship where the gloves are off, bare knuckles. Some things you say, you're like, you shouldn't have said that. But something shifted when I turned 40. I sat my father down. I told him, let me tell you something. See, you're my son. I'm named for your mother. There's a way you're going to treat me now, going forward.
Because I'm grown.
I'm grown. I have a whole generation after me. Like 40 years have passed. My friend, you're going to treat me different. And something shifted. So even by the time you're asking the diagnosis, what it did to me, it allowed me to show up with kindness for my father. And then, having taken loss and grief, I could now understand anticipatory grief.
All right.
Because now he's passing on.
Yes.
So by the time my father was dying on the 9th of April at 11:02, surrounded by his wife and his 2 sons and I, there was nothing left to be said. We had spoken. He had blessed me. He had laid hands and declared things that came to pass 397 days after his death. Like, it was empty. He had done what he needed to do.
I love the way you're very clear about the when, how many days, and all that, because these are exceptional and important dates to you.
Yeah. They're guidelines. They're guidelines for me because I keep saying mine is legacy over comfort. They already laid a foundation. My mom's parents had laid a foundation 117 years ago of church planting. So who am I to walk hotty-totty around it? Mine is to cultivate it so that my daughter and the ones who will call me Shosho, the ones who will call me great-grandma, they will then find an even stronger inheritance. And mine is an inheritance that has an out-of-this-world reward. Yeah, the return is out of this world.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Intentionality.
Yes.
Your parents, they died 89 days apart.
Dad, April 9th, 11:02. Mom, July 8th, a Monday, 12:46 p.m.
Your pillars.
Same hospital, opposite beds. Yeah.
So the pillars in your life are normal. Yeah. What is one's thinking at that point? Because my God, we talk about Curveballs, that was a major one.
Dad's death was grief. Pain. Pain. Right? But pain that had been processed. We had gone through anticipatory grief. Dad was very clear. He had spoken about where to be buried, like duration, etc. Right? He hated black cars. And he kept saying that's the only time he knows he's going to ride in a black car. Like, you guys do whatever. But yeah. So he was very clear, even in how he lived. But Mom's death, that was loss. That was loss like I've never understood. Like, I don't even have English for it yet. I don't have language for the pain of losing my mother. No. She was thriving. She was doing so well, even medically. But when my father died, something fundamentally shifted inside her. Yeah. She suffered, I think, 2 strokes after my dad died, and should suffer one and recover. She suffered one on the 5th of May, less than a month after his death, and she recovered and was good. But then she suffered one the day after Supermandamano, that Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget the days. I think it was the 26th of June. And that one left her monosyllabic. But then she was very cognitive and, she would strive to write, but it wasn't very legible. But she overcame it. And on the 7th, Sabasaba, on the 7th of July, she just fell sick. And in 24 hours, she was gone. She was gone. But I remember walking into, because that was Fearless Sunday. So I remember driving from Athi River, from the main campus, all the way to the hospital on Kiambu Road. And I just asked God, have you come for my mom? Because, there were some results there showing, and I'm like, you've been around medical pain long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, have you come for my mom? And his answer was yes. And interestingly, there had been a declaration in church. The person who was preaching had called out and asked, who is Margaret? And the sermon was interrupted. And who's Margaret? And my daughter was in church. And since she's named Joki as my mother, she stood in the gap for my mom. I recorded that sermon. And because the pastor was literally calling her out, he doesn't know us, he doesn't know, I've never seen him. And he called her out and said, Margaret, the double doors have been opened for you. You're walking into your inheritance. I played that recording for her Monday morning at about 9:30. And in less than 3 hours, she walked through her double doors of inheritance.
You released her?
Yeah. She tapped her feet. Because she wasn't speaking at that point. She tapped her feet. Yeah.
All this time, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the primary caregiver.
I was the physical primary caregiver.
Yes.
We did have a nurse, male nurse for my dad, a female nurse for my mom, but then with a lot of support from my brothers.
But you're home.
But because I share a fence with my parents, I was... So my job had literally come to a standstill. I'd put my company into hibernation, and literally taken time off because it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday for dialysis. And then there's all these other things that are happening in between. Yeah.
What's the impact on that? Because a lot of the time we remember the story of the patient. We never stop to think about the caregiver and the impact of the same.
Right.
Talk about that.
It's interesting you say that because Dad always used to talk about the caregiver when he was our caregiver. So he always used to say, in Kikuyu, it's murwarie, so the one who's taking care of the sick one, now the caregiver, is usually more unwell than the ill patient because their mind, their everything, all their senses are absorbing what is happening to this person.
Without an outlet most of the time.
Exactly. So for me, that's why therapy is a go-to. I do Jesus and therapy in equal succession. I can't overemphasize, how important that is, that you take a moment out. So some of those times when I would spend the day with Dad is so that Mom is away. So that she doesn't have to be with him every waking moment. Because this is a toil they were married for 53 years. Right? So this is the person you've been with through your ups and downs, but now you're watching them slip away. It does something to your brain. So I relied heavily on therapy and speaking to, there's a group of caregivers, right, formed by a HR lady, interestingly, and I would get a lot of release from speaking there and just listening to them.
The power of community, again,
you cannot underestimate it. Yeah.
What is this that what's keeping you showing up in the way you're showing up? Because this is why we're here having these conversations for. Most often than not, we don't look like our problems.
Or I will never look like my problems.
But how we handle the behind the scenes is very critical because it can make or break you.
Yes.
So what's your go-to?
So my go-to is Jesus. My go-to is the cross. I stand tall on my knees. Like, I can't sell the brand Jesus enough. Like, day in, day out. And it's just understanding that there's a double-breasted expression of the Holy Spirit that literally comforts. Yeah. I used to read and hear people say, comfort others with the comfort you've received. It sounded really nice. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. Until you are the one receiving the comfort and knowing tomorrow you will comfort another.
Because you understand the pain.
Yes. So like when we lost my dad in April, we lost a cousin in May, we lost an uncle in June, then we lost my mom in July. Actually, we didn't lose them. Heaven gained them. Then that's July. But that same July, a cousin of ours was murdered. We went to bury him on Thursday. So mom died on Monday. We buried him on Thursday. On Wednesday, we cremated my mom. And on Friday, we had her service. And the priest who celebrated my mom's funeral service, that was his brother we had buried the day before. So looking at him offering mass, and I'm thinking his heart is so broken, but he's showing up for his auntie. He's showing up for us. You have to understand there's something God does to people that's outside of what we can understand. When he says he will give a peace, Gladys, he gives peace. I can't tell you what happened between the Monday my mother died and the Monday after. It's a blur. In between there, like, I don't even know what was going on, but people literally carried me, you know? And that community, you must cultivate it prior. You can't call on people now and expect them to drop everything for you. But we saw it. We saw it with my brother's colleagues. We saw it with alumni. We saw it with former colleagues, friends, you know, family that stood with you and for you. My dad's brothers and sisters, my mom's family side, you know, guys came through like, I don't even know. I can't begin to explain the importance of community, but you will only get if you had deposited.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I know now you're very heavily vested in that.
Yeah.
And you are actually Pastor Wams today, a shepherd of the flock.
There you go.
Talk about that and who you see Wams in the future.
Talk about a least likely event. Yeah, least likely event. Like, so I got commissioned as a pastor on the 30th of March. I think I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like some days I'm like, they're about to say psych, you know, because something in me, I'm like, I have zero training, but I have a heart for people. I just want to shepherd. That's what I want to do. I want to be a shepherd, right? I want to look after people. And that for me is what I was referring to 397 days earlier. On the 27th of Feb, my dad laid hands on me and told me, you're going to be a pastor in my family. You're going to be the pastor in my family. I thought, oh, okay, medicine delirious. No, he knew what he was saying. And you can only see as far as your leaders. He knew what he was saying. Because my mom had been dedicated to be a nun. And then my father walked past her at Karatina Market.
Alipita katikati ya watu.
And that story changed. But thank God it did. Here we are.
Yes.
It would have been a very sad story, right? Denying the world of us.
Wams, let me tell you, we can sit here and talk all day.
Yeah.
But at this point, even as we bring this to a close, in hindsight,
right,
what would you now tell the younger Wams to seek, to hold on to, and to be wary of?
Okay, what would I tell a younger one? Imagine it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And every single pitfall that was along the way was building you to where you're going.
So what should she seek?
Clarity. And this clarity doesn't come from the world. You must settle a matter. Gladys, I met the Lord in 1989. It wasn't 35 years later, in the October of 2024, that his light and his word made sense in my life. So everything I went through was leading me up to that day when finally a matter would be settled in my heart and I would say, okay. So now I can look back and tell a younger one, I'm sorry that I took you through some places. And I'm sorry that you've had to fight day in, day out medically. But now you do have a power and authority to not only look back with gladness, but paint a picture for those coming after you.
Love it. What would you tell her to hold on to?
Legacy over comfort. Choose the long game over now.
And what should she be wearing of?
Men in jeans and white t-shirts. No.
All right, let's take that again. What should she be wary of?
Pride, an egocentric approach to life, and thinking you've got it together. You don't. You actually don't. You can't do this thing alone. Yeah.
Good place to end it.
Yeah.
Wamaitha Karanja.
Niyo.
Oh, I love talking to you. You are a wealth of wisdom, but it can only come from experience.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your heart with us.
Thanks for having me.
Karibu sana.
for
I wouldn't
having
have
me.
it any other way. It's Curveballs by Gigi. The stories we need to hear to know that when you see people not showing up like their problems, doesn't mean they do not have a cross that they carry.
Oh, yeah.
Others might have one, others might have several, but they're still putting one foot in front of the other. So let's encourage each other. Let's talk about it. Let's build each other. Thank you for your time and see you soon.